Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Angela. And I was flipping through YouTube today as I was working my last day of the week. Woohoo, because it's a holiday week. So excited. And came across Amethyst Ascension doing a VR to Boho Tarot, Don Michelle at Boho Tarot, for It Takes a Village 2022. That was the tag. And then it's just, I think it was just It Takes a Village. She's got 9 prompts on there. And I'm like, how did I miss that? And I went back to Don Michelle's video. And I'm like, oh, I had started watching it. And then I guess got on to something else. And halfway through quit watching it. So I finished watching it. And I watched all of Amethyst Ascensions. And this was a couple weeks ago she did this video. So I'm a couple weeks behind. Regardless, a couple disclaimers. All 9 of these prompts could have very well been just one deck. And I just showed the deck and left it at that. And all 9 of these prompts, I could have done several decks. I know that's kind of a weird thing on what I just said, but I narrowed it down to one deck per prompt, or we'd be here all night, because I have multiple decks that could have gone into each category, but it also could have very well been just my light seers for everything, and I've been done with it, the whole thing. I do want to say, because I narrowed it down to one deck per prompt, just totally forgot what I was going to say. So let's get on with it. Let's see what it says on these. Where's my phone? So let's get into the prompts here, because I just totally blanked on what I was going to say. So there's 9 prompts. The first prompt is the guide, a personal deck, a deck that I took that to mean as you would use it as a more personal deck to you versus everybody else. And I struggled with this one because I wanted to use my light seers, but I didn't. I used the New Chapter Tarot by Catherine Briggs. It's a Liminal 11 publication. I got this deck on a whim because I'm like, well, really, I haven't liked any of the, love that it's a hardback book. I haven't really dug any of the Liminal 11 decks, at all. And then I just happened to see this one on, there's water there, sorry. I don't want to stick my deck down there and it's water. Had a cup sitting there. It's a little bit thicker cardstock. If you know, I mean, they all have the same cardstock on their, Liminal 11 has the same cardstock on all their decks. Just get a little closer here. I saw this, kind of a barely glance walkthrough I watched. And I'm like, this is it's got beautiful coloring. And then I bought it off Amazon without really paying attention. I was like, I'll get it. I needed a Liminal 11 deck. For some reason, I needed a Liminal 11 deck. And because this one the colors are beautiful, I was like, oh, I'll get this one. And then I got this deck, and it was like, what's happening? It's deep. It's insightful. It is that almost kind of like when your husband or boyfriend or significant other takes you by the hand and leads you into a room. I don't know if that ever happens anymore, but it's happened to me in the past. Not so much anymore. I've been married for a very long time, but that kind of deck is what this is. It takes you by the hand, leads you to where you need to go, and then you're like, oh man, I can't believe I'm here. Because you realize you just got taken to exactly where you needed to go. And that's what this deck does for me. Now, I have been told this is a Thoth-like deck. I read intuitively, so I don't read Thoth, so I have no idea. All I know is there was this instant for a deck that I bought on a whim because I like the pretty colors in it. There was an instant connection with this deck that I have not had with many decks I have in my collection. And for that reason, it is in this first category. This Eight of Swords, it reminds me of the Hermit. And because I always resonated with the Hermit, it's just like mind-boggling to think that the Hermit, he's been in Hermit mode so long that now he's trapped there. And that, to me, solidified, this Eight of Swords solidified that thought process, solidified this deck would never leave my collection. Because that's the first time I saw the Eight of Swords, and the Hermit differently. And yeah, I love this deck. It's never going anywhere, ever. It's one of probably 5 or 6 decks that there was an instant love. And I'm like, yeah, I made the right choice in buying this, even though it was a whim. And it's funny because I noticed that most of the decks I bought, because either a severe FOMO or like this, I needed it because I wanted a Liminal 11 deck, and I didn't like the other ones. This is the first one I thought was pretty. But decks like that are usually the ones that I'm just like floored by when I get them. So that's deck 1. Question 2. The Caregiver, the support deck. In every situation, this is my number 1. It is the Light Seers Tarot by Chris Ann. It is published by Hay House. It was an indie deck. It is no longer an indie deck. It is now a mass market. Everybody's, and I edged it in teal. Either everybody's got this deck or everybody's seen this deck. This deck is my best friend. Okay? It's a hug in a deck. It is, probably is my only hug deck. Simply because it's my soul deck. It's the deck that knows me inside and out. It's as if Chris Ann took part of what I envisioned in a deck out of my brain and put it in a deck. And it got me through the heat of the pandemic when I was at home on work furlough, not knowing if I was going to work again or when. I was terrified that somebody in my home or my kids or my husband would get COVID. And it was a very stressful time. This deck was my friend. It was there. It was and it's so colorful, so beautiful. When I was at my craziest, this deck was my calm during the storm. It's the 3rd tarot deck I ever bought. It has a unique scent. The only deck in my collection that has a unique smell that just smelling it calms me down. I don't get it. Maybe it has a unique scent because it's my soul deck. I don't know. But yes, this is my Caregiver, the deck that I can cry on their shoulder. What I love about the Light Seers too is I cannot use it for months. Come back and it's like we just picked up the conversation where we left off. That's what I love about this deck. It's so easygoing and loving, and I love it. So, deck 3, the Muse Creative Work Deck. And I had a little bit of trouble with this one because I'm like, only decks that really have like poetry with them, and I have a few now that have like poetry or beautiful words with it, are the ones that inspire me. They inspire me to be creative and write as well. And then I forgot the Tarot of the She, the book for this. It's by Emily Carding. It is a Red Feather. Where is it? Red Feather Schiffer publication. The book has, on the minors, has poems. Yeah. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's a really... And it was one of my first, it is my first, no, my second ever complete cutting down the size and edging mod, and it came out so fabulous. I love it. Love it. And the colors in this, the readings I've had with this deck, it is very inspirational. It does feel very fantasy-like, where you're stepping into this other world. And I actually need to pull this out again lately because something's been urging me to talk about portals and other dimensions and things like that. And this deck, I think, would be fabulous for that. I don't know why that was all turned around. I don't like here, the Escaping Stagnation, Dancer 8. It's 8 of Wands, pretty sure. I haven't used it in a minute. Hot minute. Yeah, that was the Wands. And then the Dreamers are Swords. This is 8 of Swords. Yeah, it's stunning. And it brings out this creative side that, and maybe that's why I haven't been into anything lately, because I need to pull this bad boy out. But yeah, that is my Muse deck right there. The Tarot of the She. It's so beautiful. So, number 4. The Counselor Family deck. And the only one that came to mind, some of these shocked me. Because I'm like, oh, I'm going to pull the same cards I always pull. And then I didn't. And I'm like, whoa. Like the Tarot of the She, I would have not remembered to pull that out for that. But for my Counselor, my family deck, I pulled the Marielle, which shocked me because I've barely worked with this deck. I got it this year. I barely worked with this. And that was the thing I was going to say in the beginning, was all of these decks are based on what my practice looks like right now in this moment. So yeah, that's what I was going to say earlier and I forgot. When my grandmother passed, this deck has been on my wish list forever. Some of the images were why I wasn't going to buy it. And I would go back and forth. I'm like, yeah, you need to work with it. You need to work with it. And then when my grandmother passed, it was literally like she was screaming at me, buy this deck. You have to buy this deck. And for that, I think, and the readings I have had with it are so profound and so deep and so crazy. It goes into like the family drama or the passed down lineage of issues that's been passed down from generation to generation to generation. This deck has helped me realize I'm that person or that tie that's going to break that. And I would have never realized that without this deck. So yeah, that is my family counselor deck. Because it pulls out all my family issues. So that was number 4. Number 5, the Priestess Mystic, a spiritual work deck. And again, I was shocked. I pulled out the Stretch Tarot by J.E. Stretch. It is an indie deck. The Marielle, of course, is not. I edged it in this dark navy blue to match the backs. This deck is specifically for past life work and mediumistic work. Specifically. That's the entire reason I bought this deck. And I think that ties into spiritual work because when I pull this deck out and I start reading with it, past life or not, other things start to happen. Like, it's almost like it's unlocking, if you will, my mediumship abilities and my clairvoyance, my claircognizance, all these psychic abilities start firing on all cylinders. And before I know it, I'm seeing things and smelling things and hearing things. And I'm like, what's going on? And I've learned to go with the flow when it comes to this deck because it reveals so much. And I knew it would when the first time I saw this deck, laid eyes on it. I'm like, this is exactly what I had pictured for like a past life reading deck. I mean, it's like, again, he knew what was in my brain and put it down on cards. And I love this deck for that. And that's why, to me, it's a very spiritual deck because it brings out the woo. And that's why I like it. So that is number 5. Number 6, the Elder Sage Advice Deck. And that is going to be, it's in a big wrap here, my Gaian Tarot. I took the edges off because it was humongous borders. I took the edges off and made them purple to match the flowers on the backs. The job I did on this was fantastic. But the reason I put this as my Elder deck, first of all, there's a lot of elder people looking in here. Second of all, it makes me feel like it's a watery deck. I don't have any other deck that makes me feel that way in my collection. And because it is a watery deck, it is very emotional for me. It brings out a lot of emotions to the surface that I keep repressed or keep at bay. Yeah. And I think that's why it's the Elder deck to me, because it's saying it's okay to release those emotions out on me. And it's soft that way as well. So I love it for that. Okay, so 3 left. Is there 3 left? Yeah. So number 7 is the Teacher, my study deck. And I said this when I got this deck, this Journey of the Sacred Bee. I did not want this deck. Something was hounding me, buy it. I'm like, I don't want to. I don't need a bee deck. And then after the Kickstarter ended and after it went pre-order, something was like, buy it. I'm like, I don't want to. And then one day I just went in and on a whim bought it because I was tired of the voices. And then I got it and it was literally like the Hierophant. It's not a study deck in the form of I need to study it, and I've been told this is also like a Thoth deck. But it's every time I pull this deck out, I'm learning something new. And in that regard, and I've said it before, this deck is like my personal Hierophant, my personal teacher, my personal teacher. So yeah, that's that one. And then number 8, the Outsider, the deck that doesn't belong. And it's a little unconventional, but this is the only one I could think of. Life is Like a Board Game Tarot. This is an indie deck I got off Etsy. Yeah. And it looks just like this. There's no images. I mean, there is in the majors, but I have come to, this deck came in the last 6 months to find its place in my collection, and it's fantastic. I use it for meeting mystic reads and looking for missing people or what happened to them. This is an amazing deck for that. Last deck, The Stranger, the new deck in the village, and I can tell you right now, it's a Lorenzi Tarot by Irene Lorenzi. It's a U.S. Games publication. I recently just got this deck. I haven't really used it a whole lot. But it's almost, as soon as I saw this question, it was like I could hear all the other decks going, who's the new guy? And what is he going to bring that we don't offer? And I can already tell you that as soon as I saw this deck in a walkthrough, it was almost like you're seeing the creation of man before we were created as we are now. And for that, this deck, I think, has a very mystical place in my collection, a very pre-creation place. It's almost like the people are being built, and you can see her hearts going in, being placed into her body. And she's not yet animated. She's not yet human until the heart starts beating. And I find that very fascinating with this deck. And I really haven't had time here lately to do the deep dive I want to do with this deck, but it's coming. It's super coming. And this is so beautiful. And that is, yeah, the last deck. So, this is my tag. It Takes a Village 2022 to Dawn Michelle Boho Tarot. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, please don't hesitate to comment below. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you want to see more, please subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification button so you're alerted to any future videos. And y'all have a good night. Bye.